If you are in a place where it is safe and appropriate for you, please close your eyes and begin to take some nice, long, slow, deep, relaxing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering your body and mind. And with every exhale, feel like you're letting go of all tension in the body, along with anything in your mind that you do not want. Inhaling peace, exhaling as you let go. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, lighting us and the grove with a sacred golden light. This is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it burns away easily and efficiently everything that's not like itself, leaving us safe and serene. Into this sacred space, we invoke the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a mother and father, a goddess and God. We also call upon our guides, our angels, our teachers. We ask that we be guided as we walk upon the way, becoming happier, more peaceful, more gentle, more powerful, more magical, and more loving people. Thank you very much. Blessed be. It often surprises people to hear that I don't believe in God. I don't believe in magic. I don't believe in fairies. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in spirits. I don't believe in deities. I don't believe in anything really. Because I find that belief is a very weak thing. Because when you believe in something, you don't know. I try to apply the scientific method to everything. That includes gods, goddesses, fairies, ghosts, elves, magic, all of it. If I don't know that it's true, I don't bother believing in it. Now, that's not to say that I don't have relationships with God, the goddess, fairies. I have interactions with those things, but just like I don't believe in you, I don't believe in you when I meet you. I know that you're there. I know you, but I don't believe in you, because if I believed in you, that would mean that I wasn't sure about you. If I say in a court of law under oath, I believe so, that's not testimony that's accurate. The cross-examination would be, what do you mean you believe it? Did it happen or did it not happen? If I say I believe so, that means I don't know, maybe, I think it did, but I'm not sure. That has no place in my magical practice. That has no place in my spiritual practice either. The scientific method, depending on who's defining it, has about 6 steps. You have to define the issue first. That's your first step. The second step is you have to gather information that you do know about it. The third step is that you have to develop a hypothesis. That's an educated guess. Based on what I know about this situation, this is what I think. Then you have to make observations about that. Then you have to test it. Then you have to draw conclusions. So most magical operations are testing a hypothesis. Most prayer is a type of testing of a hypothesis. And prayer is much more powerful if you are applying science to it. Magic is much more powerful if you're applying science to it. So if I, for instance, wanted to cast a rain spell, first I'd have to define what the problem is. We're having a drought. I'd have to gather background information about what weather spells are, how they work, what they do, what are common types of weather spells, which weather spells have a history of being more effective. I'm just gathering information. I'm not making any judgments about them. And then based on what I've found, I have to form a hypothesis. if I do these things, then I'll get rain. Now, for me, it's not so much only about getting the right ingredients for the spell. My hypothesis has to deal with what are the mental steps in creating something. So it's more than just shaking a rain stick, but what does that rain stick represent? What does it do for me? And my understanding is the source of magic is my deep mind. So my deep mind has to be convinced that I'm going to get rain based on this operation. That's my understanding, my experience, because I've used the scientific method on so much magic in my life. I know that when I can convince my deep mind of something, that I get a result. So that's one of the hypotheses that I have to come up with is once I can convince my deep mind that the drought has ended, we will get rain. Then I have to test that. I have to perform the magical operation. I have to do my best to shake that rain stick or do that rain dance or whatever it is that I'm doing in my spell and convince my deep mind that it's happened. I have to test it. I have to see if I get results. And then I draw conclusions based upon that. Did it work or did it not work? That's where a lot of people get into trouble with magic, is that they don't ever ask, did it work? Or if it didn't work, they often will justify that it really did work in a weird way. They won't actually say, no, this didn't work. Or, yeah, this did work. And make notes in their magical diary about it. This is what I did. These were the steps that I took. And this happened. Therefore, I can get repeatable results. Or I realize, no, this didn't work. So I have to go back and troubleshoot it. I have to figure it out. It didn't work. Back to the drawing board. So magicians, remember, were the beginning of science. All magic was what science started as. So we started as science, but now we've become, for many people, superstition. And we got to be careful of that because superstition is based upon belief, not knowledge. There's no proof of something if there's superstition. If you know that a certain thing happens when you do a certain thing, then you're not superstitious about it anymore. You're scientific about it. You know that it's true. What happens is with, for instance, an atheist, they'll say, I don't believe in God because if I can't experience it with my body, it doesn't exist. But that doesn't work for magicians and witches because most of what we do in magic doesn't involve the senses of our body. It involves other senses. So it's not so much, I don't believe in God because I can't see it. It's, I don't believe in God because I do know it. Either I know it or I don't know it yet. I don't believe in the goddess because that would imply that I don't know her, but I do know her. I work with her daily. I know she's there. She and I converse constantly. I don't believe in her. I know her. The same could be true with me with Jesus. People are like, do you believe in Jesus? No, I don't believe in Jesus. But I do know an entity that has presented itself as Jesus at certain times in life that I have a relationship with. That entity, that energy reveals itself to be not Jesus to me, but Lucifer. But that's not something I believe in. I don't believe in Lucifer. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe in that. I know it. I've had interactions with these beings. Until you know something is true, it's just a hypothesis. But if it's a working hypothesis, that means that you can test it. You don't believe in fairies. That doesn't work, believing in fairies. I think that there might be fairies, but I don't know until I experience them. It's a working hypothesis for me until I experience those fairies. When we're trying to create change with magic, we have to understand there's a difference between faith as a magical ingredient and belief, which is not a magical ingredient. Faith is something that we must use as a tool that carries us through an operation when we don't have any indication of its reality with our physical senses. We learn to suspend disbelief and have faith in our operation until it either proves itself or doesn't to us. We have to have faith as part of our magical operation, but that's not the same thing as believing in something. I have faith that I will get this money because I know how magic works. And so I can do a money spell and I have faith that money's coming because I know it works. I'm performing the steps that it takes. And I perform these steps on all kinds of spells in my life that have worked. And therefore, I don't believe that it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen, even though I can't yet see it. I understand that my thought form that I'm building is powerful to create a physical experience for me, not based on belief, but based on experience, based on knowledge. One of the most powerful things a witch or magician can do is go through things and just out loud say what they don't believe in. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in goddesses. I don't believe in gods. I don't believe in deities. I don't believe in fairies. I don't believe in demons. I don't believe in whatever it is that you think you work with. You don't believe in any of it. Because if you believe in it, then you don't know it. And then you're stuck in that limbo where you're just fantasizing and hoping. That's the other one, hoping. Hope and belief are siblings. They're very negative siblings. I believe in it, therefore I hope it's true. It means you have no certainty, you have no knowledge, and you have no power. You're just going, oh, I hope, I believe, I hope. That's not faith. That's not magic. That's a type of desperation that we want to eliminate. So I have no hope, and I have no belief. But I do have certainty and faith. I do have knowledge. I do know how to make it work. And that's why with our magical practice, we have to start sometimes rather small so that we can build our sphere of influence. We can build our faith. We can build our skill set so that we have knowledge and experience backing us up. Not, oh, I hope so. I believe. You don't want to believe. Belief is the worst thing for you. Faith is not the same as belief. Faith comes because it's backed by experience. You have faith that there's going to be a sunrise, not because you believe in the sun, but because you know there's a sunrise every morning. If we didn't have a sunrise, that would be odd. That would be unusual. You have faith. You have certainty that we're going to have a sunrise. You have certainty that the moon will wax and wane from our perspective here. You have certainty that you're going to wake up in the morning. You have certainty that you're going to take another breath. You know that these things are going to happen, even though they're not happening yet. You know these things based on experience. And the same must be true with anything like magic or spirit. That's why I don't like the craft being called a religion, because religion is usually based on belief and based on hope and based on nonsense. We don't want magic based on nonsense. We want magic based on truth, because that's magic that works. And we know that we can make something happen because we have a track record. We started small and we built up over time, and our faith is powerful. And when we are trying to create change in a situation, very frequently we have to come up against a situation that we're either afraid about or that we fear might be too big for us. And so that's a lot of times when people get that paralysis of fear that they're not going to be able to make a difference with their magic, and they will fall into these beliefs and hopes because it gives them a false sense of certainty, a false sense of help that's not helpful at all. It's just a way to lull you to sleep. You don't want to be lulled to sleep when you're doing magic. You want to be awakened to your power to make something happen. And so if you're afraid of something, if something seems too big for you, you either need to break it down into smaller chunks that are more approachable, or find some help from other people, or ask for guidance from whatever you have come to know, not believe, but know to be your guide or your teacher. If you haven't had experience yet with having a guide or a teacher and following direction and always being successful because you follow direction, then you have to start with the hypothesis. I have a sense that there may be, and I've heard that there may be a power and an intelligence that is available to me that can guide me when I'm lost. And it's said to work like a GPS system almost. And I'm going to assume that if this is true, that I can access it. So that's our hypothesis. And then what we have to do is we have to test it. And so what do you do to test it? You ask this teacher, you ask this guide for help in a very specific situation. You say, I need help. Please guide me. Please show me. And then you start to follow what you understand to be, or what you think may be, intuitive hits and hunches. And you follow through on them, and you either get success or failure. Either is fine, because you're going to write it all down. And that's how you start to learn how to differentiate your feelings between what is an intuitive guidance and what is perhaps an ego fear. You start to learn how to separate the two, because one type of feeling brings you these results and one type of feeling brings you those results. And you write all this down because you're such a good scientist. And pretty soon you say, my hypothesis panned out. When I follow my guidance, I get good results. And when I follow my ego fears, I get bad results. I'm starting to differentiate between the two. I started small and now I can grow. But now it's based on not believing that there's some sort of teacher out there, but you know that there's a teacher because you're developing a relationship with your teacher based on experience, direct, firsthand experience. If you're one of those people that doesn't think that there's a higher power, that doesn't think that there's any kind of deity or God or creator, that's fine. But you could say, well, let's run an experiment. First of all, did I create myself? Is it possible that I created myself out of nothing? Well, that doesn't make logical sense, because you're not causing your heart to beat. You didn't cause yourself to come out of your mother's womb. You didn't cause yourself to grow. You didn't cause the hair on your head to grow. You didn't cause any of these things, at least not to your knowledge. You don't have any direct proof of that. If there is a principle that did cause that, that is a good starting point for your hypothesis. And so therefore, my hypothesis is that there is some sort of creative force, since I didn't create myself, and I want to know what that is. And so then you run some kind of experiment on that. For instance, you might run an experiment that says, I want proof that there is a higher power that created me and that can help me in a situation. Therefore, I have a small problem here, and I'm going to call upon what I think is that higher power to help me in this particular problem. And if I get help in this problem, I'll know that it was a success. If I don't get help in this problem, I'll know that this experiment wasn't a success. Either way, I'll have proof. That doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't have success that there isn't a higher power. That's not good science. It means that you didn't access it well. So you haven't yet proven one way or another if you don't have success, but you have proven that whatever you did didn't work. But if you have success, then something is working. Either you've proven that there's a higher power, or you've proven that the idea of a higher power seemed to help you in that particular situation. Either way, it was a success. Your experiment worked. It's imperative that you don't fall into the trap of believing blindly in things, that you don't fall into the trap of having superstition guiding you, because that's a road to nowhere. It's just a road to lulling yourself to sleep more and more. What you want is power over situations, power over your ego, and the only way to find that power is to question everything and not believe in any of it, and tell yourself again and again, I don't believe this. I don't believe what they're telling me. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. If it sounds interesting to me, if it sounds like it might be a good idea, I will test it. I will put it through the test. And that way I'll either find out if it's true or not, but I'm still never going to believe in it because belief is negative. Belief is a soporific. Belief puts us to sleep. Belief and superstitions put us to sleep. And so we've got belief, superstition, and hope all churning to keep us snoozing our way through our existence. Instead, call upon within ourselves the desire to know the truth and to prove things to ourselves, to start small and to experiment with our magic and find where we are successful, find where we are failures, and learn by doing that how we can have our magic be more and more successful so that we have demonstratable, repeatable results. We have it right on paper. I did this and I got that. Or I did this and I didn't get that. Either way, it's a success because you learned something. You learned either that your technique didn't work, your method didn't work, or the idea behind it was wrong. The complete hypothesis was off, and you get to go back to the drawing board and start over again. Or if it sort of worked, you need to tweak it. And so all of our tools, all of our bodies of knowledge from eons of magical practice, all the course, the techniques, the methods, the spells, the everything, all of it, the grounding and centering, the orb of light, all of that stuff, those are all tools that have helped certain people over the years. And they will probably help you too if you use them appropriately, but you don't know that until you make it your own. So you don't want to believe in the orb of light. You want to use the orb of light. When you use that orb of light and you get a result, then you say, yes, the orb of light works for me. I don't have to believe in it. You don't have to believe in thought forms. You have to try them, put them to the test, work them, find out for yourself and prove to yourself how it works or doesn't work for you. And if it doesn't work, was it that the theory itself was bad? Or is it that I need to change my method? That's just something that you experiment with over time. And then you find what works for you. And then when somebody says, oh, you always need to blah, 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 you can think, I don't believe that. I've proven it to be something else for myself. So when people say, oh, no, you have to smudge with sage, you must smudge with sage. I love that one. And I think to myself, I've proven that I don't have to smudge with sage. I've proven that I have alternate methods that work just as well, that I don't need to smudge with sage, and I still get the same results. But I've proven that. So I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to believe or disbelieve in it. I know what's true. It's very important for you to understand that the craft doesn't need to be a religion. It can be both an art and a science. And before we conclude, that's something too. Somebody says, is it an art or is it a science? All true art is a science. There's a science to paint. There's a science to music. There's a science to sculpting. It's both. It's an art and a science. It's a science in that you can get verifiable, repeatable results when you learn the particular techniques and methods that you develop for yourself over time based on experimentation. But it's also an art because you learn how you can create in your own unique way. And that's why we say that the craft is your own. It's your own art form. It can be anything you want it to be. But don't believe in any of it. Prove it. Prove it to yourself. An artist doesn't believe in paint, do they? Oh, I believe in paint, and I hope this comes out okay. That doesn't sound artistic. No, they practice over and over again until they learn how to master their paint. A musician doesn't believe in the piano, doesn't believe in the sheet music. Musician doesn't hope that they can play. No, they practice. They play again and again, and they fix their mistakes, and eventually they prove it to themselves. and to the world, see, I can play this piece of music. It wasn't because I believed in the sheet music. It wasn't because I hoped in the piano. It's because I practiced and I put together a system for myself so that I could master that. Maybe you worked with a teacher, somebody that had more experience than you, or maybe you did it on your own. It doesn't matter. Either way, it wasn't because you believed. It wasn't because you hoped. There was no superstition. You didn't need a rabbit's foot on your keyboard in order to master the Chopin Nocturne. You needed time and practice over and over again. So there was both art and science going on there. And the same is true for your magic. Do yourself a favor. Don't believe in anything. Either prove it to yourself or drop it out of your repertoire altogether. It's up to you to make your magic work, just like it's up to a scientist in a lab to make their experiments happen. And the way you make your magic work is not only through success, but through failure. And by learning what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And when it doesn't work, you have to learn and ask yourself and discover, is it because of my method or is it because the hypothesis itself is incorrect? And you'll get there little by little, but you'll get there, starting small and growing over time. Not because you believed in anything, but because you worked and you practiced. And that's how we get good at magic, just like anything else. Thank you so much for joining me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.